The market was loud, full of voices, machines, and smells. Stalls lined the wide streets, each filled with bright fruits, old metals, and strange alien spices. Poor families walked slowly, searching for cheap food. The rich walked fast, their clothes clean, their hands full of credits. In one corner of the street, 3 alien boys stood together. Their clothes were torn, their feet dusty, and their stomachs empty. They were brothers, the children of a tired mother who worked hard to feed them. They were small but strong, always looking for work, always hoping someone would give them a few coins. The oldest boy, Raal, watched the crowd carefully. His eyes moved from stall to stall, searching for a chance. The second boy, Kiru, was only a little younger, and he copied every move his brother made. The youngest, Leto, was still small. His eyes were big and full of wonder, but also full of hunger. They had no money. They had no food. But they had hope. That was when they saw him, the human. He stood taller than most of the crowd. His clothes were rich, made from fabrics the boys had never touched. On his wrist shone a bright metal band, maybe pure silver, maybe more. His eyes were sharp, scanning the market like a man who already owned everything, but his hands were full. He carried heavy bags filled with expensive things, meats, drinks, tools, and clothes. The boys could see he was struggling, though he never showed weakness. Humans were proud, always proud. The rich human stopped near them. For a moment, his eyes rested on the 3 alien boys. They froze. No human ever looked at them with interest. Usually, humans ignored them, or worse, shouted at them to move away. But this man did not shout. Instead, he spoke. His voice was deep, strong, but not cruel. "Do you want work?" he asked. The boys looked at each other. Work with a human. It could be dangerous. Humans did not always treat aliens fairly, but they were hungry. Their mother would be waiting, hoping they could bring something home. "Yes, sir," Raal said carefully. His voice shook a little, but he stood straight, trying to be brave. The human gave a small nod and handed them the bags. They were heavy, far heavier than the boys expected. The weight pulled at their small arms, but they did not complain. They lifted the bags together and followed the human through the busy streets. Every step was difficult. The bags felt like rocks. Their arms ached, their backs hurt, but they kept moving. People stared at them. 3 poor alien boys carrying the wealth of a human. Some laughed, some whispered, some looked away. Leto, the youngest, almost tripped, but Kiru quickly helped him. Raal kept his eyes forward. He knew they had to finish this job. If they failed, the human might get angry, and that could bring trouble. They walked for a long time. The market turned into quiet streets and then into a part of the city they had never seen. Tall buildings rose around them, shining with glass and light. This was the rich quarter. Here, no alien child ever walked. The boys felt smaller and smaller as they entered. Their clothes looked dirtier, their feet more tired. They wondered why the human had chosen them. He could have called machines or servants. Why 3 poor alien boys? At last, they stopped in front of a large house. It was beautiful, with tall gates, clean walls, and glowing lights. The boys stared, unable to believe that anyone could live in such a place. The human turned and looked at them again. His face was calm, unreadable. For a moment, they thought he might scold them or laugh at their weakness. Instead, he said something unexpected. "Wait here." He stepped inside the gate. The boys stood silently, holding the bags, their arms shaking. They wondered if he would return. Maybe he would leave them outside. Maybe he would call the guards. Fear grew inside them, but then the gate opened again. The human came back, and in his hands he carried not more bags, but food. Real food, bread, fruit, and water. "Eat," he said simply. The boys looked at each other in shock. Humans never gave food freely, not to alien children. But this man had. Slowly, carefully, Raal reached for the bread. He tore it into 3 pieces and gave it to his brothers. They ate quickly, their stomachs finally feeling warmth. Leto smiled for the first time that day. Kiru licked the juice of the fruit from his hands. Even Raal, who tried to stay serious, felt his heart soften. The human watched them quietly. His eyes were strange, hard like stone, but also soft like water. Finally, he spoke again. "You have a mother, don't you?" The boys froze. How did he know? "Yes," Raal said slowly. "She is at home." The human gave a small nod. Then he leaned down, so his voice reached only them. His words were quiet, but they cut deep. "Tomorrow. Be careful. Danger is near." The boys' eyes widened. They didn't understand. What danger? Why would a rich human warn them? Before they could ask, the man stood up again. He gave them a small pouch of coins, more money than they had ever held in their lives. Then he took the bags from their arms, carried them inside, and closed the gate. The boys stood in silence, coins in hand, food in their stomachs, fear in their hearts. They walked home slowly, thinking of the man's words. Danger is near. What did he mean? The night after carrying the heavy bags, the three alien boys could not sleep. Their small home was dark, their mother already asleep in the corner, but the boys' minds were wide awake. The human's last words repeated again and again, tomorrow, be careful. Danger is near. Raoul lay on the floor with his hands under his head, staring at the cracked ceiling. He was the oldest and he felt the most responsibility. He kept asking himself, why did the human warn us? Was it a trick? Or was it real? Beside him, Kiru whispered, Raoul, what if soldiers come? He said danger, maybe he meant humans like them. Leto, the youngest, hugged his thin blanket. His voice was soft, almost shaking. But he gave us food. No human ever gave us food. Maybe he is good, Raoul sighed. He wanted to believe the youngest. But he had lived long enough to know the truth. Humans were not kind. Not to alien children like them. Still, something about that man's eyes, the way he had spoken, stayed in his heart. The next morning, their mother woke early. She looked at her boys with tired eyes. Did you earn something yesterday? She asked. Raoul nodded and showed her the pouch of coins. Her eyes widened in shock. She held the pouch like it was treasure. Where did you get this? Raoul explained slowly about the human, the bags, and the warning. Their mother's face grew pale. She sat down hard, pressing her hand to her chest. You should not have trusted him, she whispered. Humans don't give without reason. If he warned you, it means something terrible is coming. The boys felt fear grow in their stomachs. Their mother was wise. She had lived through many hard years. If she believed danger was near, then it must be true. That day, Raoul decided to go back to the rich quarter. He told his brothers to wait at the edge of the market while he went alone. He needed to see if the human was there, maybe ask him what he meant. The streets were busy again, but different. There was tension in the air. Soldiers were walking between stalls, asking questions, staring at alien families with sharp eyes. People were whispering, hiding things, moving fast. Raoul kept his head down and hurried through. When he reached the rich quarter, he felt even more out of place than before. The tall gates, the clean walls, the smell of flowers, all of it told him he didn't belong. He stood outside the human's large house. He wanted to call out, but his voice froze in his throat. What if the human was angry? What if it was a trap? Then the gate opened. The human stepped out. He was dressed differently today. No bags in his hands, no heavy coat. He looked lighter, calmer. When his eyes fell on Raoul, he did not look surprised. Instead, he gave a small smile. You came back, he said simply. Raoul swallowed hard. His hands shook, but he stood tall. Why did you say danger is near? The human looked around before speaking. His voice was low but firm. The soldiers are planning something. They want to arrest families like yours. They will say you are thieves, but it is a lie. They want control and they want fear. You must stay inside tonight. Raoul's heart pounded. Arrest soldiers? He thought of his mother, of Leto and Kiru. Why? Why are you telling me this? You are human. Why do you care? For the first time, the human's eyes softened. He leaned closer and said, Because once, long ago, someone helped me when no one else would. I will not forget that. Now I repay. Raoul did not understand, but he felt the weight of the words. This human was not like the others. The man gave Raoul another small packet, this time food wrapped in cloth. Take this to your family. Eat well tonight. Tomorrow may be hard. Raoul's hands shook as he accepted it. Thank you, he whispered. The human nodded once, then turned away, disappearing back inside the house. Raoul returned to his brothers. When he showed them the food, their eyes lit up. When he told them the warning, their smiles disappeared. Fear returned, stronger than before. That evening, as the family ate together, their mother said nothing. She only looked at her sons with worried eyes. After dinner, she gathered them close and whispered, If soldiers come, do not speak. Do not fight. Stay behind me. The boys nodded, though inside they trembled. Late that night, the streets grew louder. The sound of boots echoed. Voices shouted orders, and the glow of lamps filled the darkness. Soldiers moved from house to house, banging on doors, dragging people into the streets. The boys pressed close to their mother, hearts racing. Would they come here next? And if they did, would the humans' warning be enough to save them? The night grew darker, but the streets grew louder. From their small window, the three alien boys and their mother watched shadows move under the torchlight. Soldiers walked in groups, their boots heavy against the stone ground. Each group stopped at houses, banged on doors, and shouted orders. The neighbors trembled. Some families cried. Others were dragged outside, their few belongings thrown in the dust. Children clung to their mothers while fathers were forced into the street. Raoul felt his throat tighten. The human's words came back to him like an echo. Be careful. Danger is near. Now he understood. Kiru gripped his arm. They're coming closer, he whispered, fear shaking his voice. Leto pressed against their mother, hiding his face in her clothes. The mother stood still, her back straight, though her hands trembled. She had faced hunger, poverty, and pain, but the sound of soldiers at night was different. It was the sound of cruelty. The banging grew louder. The soldiers were moving house by house. They would reach theirs soon. Quiet, the mother whispered. She pulled her sons into the corner. No noise. No movement. Raoul held his breath. His heart thumped so hard he was sure the soldiers could hear it. Suddenly, bang. The door next to theirs was kicked open. Screams filled the air. A family was dragged out crying. The soldiers shouted accusations of theft, of lies, of disobedience. But everyone knew the truth. It was not about theft. It was about fear. Raoul's stomach twisted. If they came here, what could they do? They had no protection. No one to defend them. And then, just as he thought the soldiers would break into their house, a shadow appeared in the street. It was him, the rich human. He moved differently from the soldiers, calm, deliberate, his steps silent. He did not shout, did not draw attention, but his presence was powerful. The torchlight caught his face, and for a brief moment Raoul saw something strange in his eyes. Determination. The human approached the soldiers. He whispered something to the captain. The captain froze, glanced at the human's wrist, the silver band shining under the firelight, and then nodded quickly. To the boy's shock, the soldiers moved away from their door. Just like that. No banging, no shouts. Their family was skipped. The mother gasped softly. What just happened? Raoul stared, his eyes wide. He didn't understand. Why would the human protect them? Why risk speaking to soldiers in the middle of their raid? The soldiers moved further down the street, their noise fading into the night. The danger had passed, at least for now. But then there was a soft knock at their window. Raoul froze. Slowly he peeked out. The human stood there. His face was serious, his eyes scanning the shadows. He lifted a finger to his lips, telling Raoul to stay silent. Raoul opened the window just a crack. His brothers leaned close, listening. The human spoke in a low voice, almost a whisper. They will return tomorrow, and they will not stop. The mother stepped forward. Why are you helping us? She asked, her voice full of suspicion and fear. For the first time, the human's hard face softened, because not all humans are the same. Some choose cruelty, others choose justice. He paused, then leaned closer. His words carried a weight heavier than the soldiers' boots. There is proof of their corruption. Hidden records, false orders, secret payments. I have seen it. And I will expose them. But I need time. You must stay safe until then. Raoul's heart raced. He wanted to trust the man, but trust was dangerous. Still, the truth was clear. The human had already saved them once. Without him, their door would have been broken, their family taken. Kiru whispered, Can we really believe him? The human's eyes met Raoul's. In that moment, Raoul felt something deep inside, not fear, but a spark of hope. The human slipped a small object through the window. It was a thin disc glowing faintly with blue light. Keep this safe, he said. If soldiers come, press it. It will send a signal. The mother hesitated, then took it with shaking hands. She had never touched human technology before, not like this. The man gave one last nod. Stay hidden. Tomorrow the truth begins. And then, without waiting for thanks, he disappeared back into the shadows. The house was silent. The boys stared at the glowing disc, their mother holding it close. Leto's small voice finally broke the silence. Mamas, is he really different from the others? The mother looked at her sons, her tired eyes wet with tears. I do not know. But tonight, he was our protector. Raoul clenched his fists. He had lived his whole life believing humans were enemies. But this one human had broken that belief. Somewhere deep in his chest, he whispered to himself, maybe humans are not all the same. But outside, the soldiers' shouts continued in the distance. The night was not over, and tomorrow, as the human said, would be even more dangerous. The night passed slowly, filled with the sound of boots, shouts, and broken doors. But somehow their house remained untouched. The three boys clung to their mother, their eyes half open, their bodies trembling with fear. They had survived, for now. When the morning light broke through the cracks of their old roof, the street outside was quiet. Broken wood, shattered glass, and the silence of frightened neighbors filled the air. Families had vanished during the night. Only a few stood outside, staring at the empty houses as if their souls had been taken away. The boy's mother, Anera, stood in the doorway. Her hands were tight around her shawl, her face pale. She had seen soldiers raid before, but never so close. Never skipping her home by chance. She knew it was not chance. It was because of him, the human. Her sons gathered near her, whispering about the glowing disc the man had given them. Raoul held it carefully, watching the faint blue light. "Mother," he asked softly, "why did he help us? He is human. Why risk his life?" Anera did not answer. Instead, she looked away, her thoughts heavy. She wanted to tell them the truth, but she feared the truth more than the soldiers outside. That day, Anera worked quietly in their small room, mending clothes for neighbors, but her mind kept returning to the human's face. She had seen eyes like that before, eyes that carried both power and burden. Many years ago, before her children were born, she had worked as a servant in a human settlement. Back then, she had seen cruelty every day. Humans used alien workers like tools, treating them as less than animals. But one human, just one, had shown kindness. He had stopped a soldier from beating her. He had spoken gently when others barked orders, and then he had vanished. She never knew his name. Now, standing in her broken home, she wondered, could this man be connected to that past? Could kindness really appear twice in one lifetime? The boys, however, were restless. Kiru paced the floor, his hands tight with worry. If soldiers come again, will that disc really protect us? Can one man fight all of them? Leto hugged his knees. He saved us once. Maybe he will again. Raoul, the oldest, stayed silent, but his eyes burned with conflict. He wanted to trust the human, yet his heart told him danger was still near. Finally, Raoul asked, "Mother, do you believe him?" Anera froze. She wanted to say yes. She wanted her children to have hope. But lies could kill. She turned slowly, her voice low and heavy. "I don't know. Humans play games with lives. Some are cruel because they enjoy it. Others are cruel because it gives them power. Only a few choose kindness. And sometimes even their kindness hides a price." The boys fell silent. Her words filled the small room like a storm. That evening, a knock came at the door. Not the harsh bang of soldiers, this knock was gentle. The boys jumped to their feet, fear flashing in their eyes. Anera raised her hand, signaling them to stay back. She opened the door just a crack. It was the human. He stood calm, carrying no bags, no soldiers with him, only his sharp eyes and quiet voice. "You are safe today," he said. "But the danger grows." Anera stepped outside, closing the door behind her. She faced him with steady eyes. "Why us? Why my children?" "You could save anyone. Why choose this family?" The man hesitated. For the first time, his voice softened. "Because your children remind me of something I lost." Anera's breath caught in her throat. For a moment, she thought of the past again, the human who had saved her years ago. Could it be connected? She searched his face, but the answer was hidden. The man continued, his voice turning firm again. "Tomorrow, soldiers will search again. They want to destroy whole streets of families. I am gathering proof, but I need time. Until then, stay hidden. Do not leave your home." He slipped a small folded paper into her hand. "This has names, places, things I have seen. If I fall, give it to someone you trust. Do not let it burn with me." Anera's fingers trembled. She wanted to refuse, but something in his eyes stopped her. When she returned inside, the boys surrounded her with questions. "What did he say? What did he give you?" Anera pressed the paper close to her chest. She did not tell them everything. Some truths were too heavy for children. She only whispered, "He wants us to survive." But inside her heart, worry grew heavier. The human's kindness was strange, but his warning was clear. Tomorrow, something worse was coming. That night, as her children slept, Anera sat awake by the dim light. She unfolded the paper he had given her. Inside were strange marks, human symbols, and lists of names. She recognized some soldiers, merchants, even leaders in the city. It was proof. Proof of betrayal. Proof of corruption. Her hand shook. If anyone found this paper in her house, her children would be killed instantly. Tears filled her eyes. She whispered to herself, "Why us? Why me?" But deep inside, another voice whispered back, "Because sometimes fate does not choose the strongest. It chooses those who have the most to lose." She folded the paper again and hid it under the floor. Then she sat silently, her worry heavier than ever, waiting for the dawn. Morning arrived, but it did not bring peace. The street was silent in a way that felt wrong, too empty, too watchful. Families that had survived the night stayed inside their homes, afraid to even open a window. The smell of smoke drifted faintly through the air, carried from the houses that had been burned after the raids. Inside their small home, Anera sat with her 3 sons. Her hands rested on her lap, but her mind was not calm. She kept thinking about the folded paper hidden under the floor. Each word, each name written on it was like fire. If anyone discovered it, they were finished. The boys tried to stay quiet, but children could not hide their worry for long. Kiru paced the floor, muttering, "They will come today. I know they will." The human said it. Leto sat close to his mother, whispering, "Will he save us again, Mama?" "He saved us last night." Ral clenched his fists. He hated waiting. Waiting made the fear worse. He wanted to believe in the human's promise, but doubt filled him. What if the man lied? What if this time he doesn't come back? By midday, the silence broke. Shouts echoed at the far end of the street. Soldiers had returned. This time they moved faster, more organized, their boots shaking the ground as they marched. Their captain barked orders. "Search every house. Leave none unchecked." Anera's face went pale. She grabbed her children and pulled them into the back corner of the room. "Stay silent," she whispered. The sound of wood splintering filled the air. One house after another was broken open. Families cried as soldiers stormed inside, dragging people out and throwing their belongings in the street. Ral's heart pounded harder with each crash. They were getting closer. Finally, the sound reached their door. Bang! The wooden door shook under the force of fists. "Open up," a soldier barked. By order of the city guard, Anera held her children close, praying the human would appear again. But this time there was no knock at the window, no whisper in the shadows. Only soldiers. The door banged again, harder. Then with one final kick it burst open. 3 soldiers entered, their armor dirty, their eyes cruel. They scanned the small room with disgust. "Poor rats," one sneered. "Check the floor. They always hide something." The boys froze. Anera stood quickly, blocking the soldiers from moving further. "We have nothing," she said, her voice firm but shaking. "Take what you want, but leave my children." The captain pushed her aside. "Move, alien. We know you steal." The soldiers began overturning their few possessions, tearing open blankets, kicking apart the small wooden table. Ral's chest tightened. If they found the paper, they were all dead. Kiru's eyes darted to Ral. He whispered, "The paper. They'll find it." Ral's mind raced. He wanted to grab it, to run, but that would expose them. His fist shook with helplessness. One soldier stomped near the floorboards. The sound was hollow. His eyes narrowed. "There," he said, crouching down. He reached for the loose plank. Ral felt his world collapse. This was the end, but before the soldier could pull it open, "Stop." The voice rang sharp, cutting through the room like a blade. The human stood in the doorway. The soldiers stiffened. Their eyes flicked to his wrist where the shining silver band glowed faintly. It was not just decoration, it was a mark of authority. The captain narrowed his eyes. "Why are you here, human?" "This is not your concern." The man stepped forward calmly. His presence filled the small room, his voice cold and commanding. "It is my concern. These children carried my belongings yesterday. They are under my protection." The captain scoffed. "Protection? They are thieves. We have orders." The human's eyes hardened. "Orders or excuses? You raid the poor to hide your own crimes." The room fell silent. The soldiers shifted uncomfortably. They had not expected resistance, especially from one of their own kind. The human took another step forward, his hand brushing the silver band. Its glow brightened, projecting a faint light. Suddenly, a holographic screen appeared in the air. Names, numbers, lists. The very same records Anera had seen on the paper. Proof of corruption. The soldiers froze, their crimes revealed in front of them. The captain's face twisted with rage. Where did you get this? The human's voice was steel. From your own leaders. You think your lies are hidden, but the truth has a way of shining through. Raoul stared, his mouth open. This was no ordinary rich man. He was something more. Someone with power enough to expose soldiers. Someone willing to risk his life for them. But the danger was not gone. The captain drew his blade, pointing it at the human. If you side with them, then you are our enemy too. The boys gasped. Anera stepped protectively in front of them, her heart racing. The human did not flinch. He looked at the captain with unshakable eyes. Then you have already lost. The tension in the room grew like fire ready to burst. Soldiers against a human who stood alone. Protecting an alien family no one else would defend. The hidden enemy was revealed, but the real battle was only beginning. The air inside the small house felt heavy, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. The silver band on the human's wrist glowed brighter, casting pale light across the broken furniture. The holographic screen still floated above his hand, its sharp lines showing the soldier's corruption for all to see. The captain's blade pointed straight at him, trembling with anger. You think this will save you? You are one man against the city guard. The human's voice was calm, steady. I don't need to be an army. I only need the truth. His words cut deeper than steel. Raoul, hiding behind his mother, felt his chest tighten. He had seen humans shout, threaten, and punish, but he had never seen one speak like this, like a wall that could not be moved. Kiru whispered, "He's not afraid." Even Leto, clutching his mother's arm, stared wide-eyed, caught between fear and awe. The captain sneered and raised his blade higher. Then the truth will die with you. He lunged forward, but the human moved faster. With one swift motion, he pressed the silver band. A shield of light burst around him, blocking the blade. Sparks flew as metal met energy, the sound sharp and furious. The soldiers stepped back, shocked. That's forbidden tech, one of them muttered. The human's eyes flashed. Forbidden for you, not for me. He raised his arm and the hologram shifted. Now it showed not only names and payments but also secret orders signed by high officials. Proof that the raids were not about justice but about control, stealing homes from the poor to give land to the rich. The captain's face turned red. Silence him, he roared. Two soldiers rushed forward. Raoul's heart leapt into his throat. But the human did not flinch. He moved with precision, striking one soldier's weapon aside and throwing the other to the ground with strength that seemed impossible for a man alone. Within seconds, both soldiers were disarmed. The boys watched with wide eyes. For them, humans had always been untouchable masters. But now they were seeing something new, a human fighting his own kind for the sake of aliens. The captain staggered back, his blade still in hand, his eyes wild with rage. You betray your people for rats, he spat. The human's voice grew louder, stronger. No, I betray corruption, not my people. And these children are not rats. They are the future you fear, because they cannot be broken. His words struck like thunder. Even Anera, who had distrusted him from the start, felt her breath catch. She had waited years to hear a human say those words. The captain snarled and raised his blade again. But before he could strike, the sound of more boots echoed outside. More soldiers were coming. Raoul's blood ran cold. If reinforcements entered, the human would be outnumbered. He had saved them once, twice, but could he survive an army? The human turned quickly to Anera. His eyes were urgent now, no longer calm. The paper. Where is it? Anera hesitated. Revealing it could doom them, but she saw the fire in his eyes. The certainty that he could use it. Slowly, with trembling hands, she reached under the floor and pulled it out. She pressed it into his hand. If you fail, this kills us all. The human looked at her with something rare, respect. Then I will not fail. The door shook again as more soldiers pounded on it. The captain's lips twisted into a cruel smile. Now we will see if your truth can save you. The human raised the paper, the silver band glowing brighter. He spoke not to the captain, but to the device itself. Activate, record. The hologram flared, and suddenly his voice boomed through the street. His words were carried beyond the house, echoing across the city. The proof was no longer secret. It was broadcast for all to hear. The names of corrupt officials, the false orders, the stolen wealth. Every word poured into the air like fire. The soldiers froze. Outside, neighbors peeked from their homes, hearing the truth for the first time. Murmurs rose, shock, anger, fear. The captain's face twisted in panic. Stop him. Stop the signal. But it was too late. The truth was free. Inside the house, the human lowered his hand, the glow dimming. He looked at the family, Anera and her 3 sons, their faces lit with disbelief. You are safe now, he said softly. They cannot touch you. Not after this. Raul's chest swelled with something new, not just relief but pride. For the first time in his life, he felt that being alien did not mean being powerless. But even as hope grew, Anera's eyes narrowed. She stepped closer to the human. Who are you really? She asked. For a moment he was silent. Then he spoke with quiet weight. My name is Kale. Once I was a soldier like them, but I saw too much. And I chose another path. The truth was out. The family was safe for now. But Kale's admission left a new question burning in Anera's heart. If he was once one of them, could he truly be trusted? The street outside was no longer silent. After Kale's broadcast, voices rose like a storm. Neighbors stepped out of their broken houses, their faces pale with fear but lit with something new. Anger. Mothers held their children tighter, fathers clenched their fists, and whispers spread like fire. He showed their names. The soldiers lied to us. They can't hide now. The city, for the first time in years, had heard the truth. Inside the small house, Anera stood frozen. Her 3 sons clung to her, their wide eyes fixed on Kale. He was not like the soldiers. He was not like the humans she had known before. He had risked everything for them, but her heart was not calm. Fear gnawed at her chest. The truth was free, yes, but truth had enemies. The captain, still standing with his blade, growled in rage. Do you think this changes anything? You are one man. They will silence you before dawn. Kale turned his eyes on him, calm but sharp. Maybe, but not before the people rise. The more you silence, the louder the voices will become. His words echoed like thunder. The captain's hand shook, but he did not strike again. He could see the change in the soldiers around him. Their confidence was gone. Some lowered their weapons. One even stepped back, his face pale. The seed of doubt had been planted. Kyle looked at Anera then, his voice softer. You and your children are safe now. They cannot touch you. Not when the city knows your names. Safe. The word felt heavy in her heart. She wanted to believe it. She wanted to believe this strange man had truly changed their fate. But she had lived too long in fear to trust so easily. Why us? She whispered again, her voice trembling. You could have protected anyone. Why my sons? Why this house? Kale hesitated. His eyes softened as he looked at the 3 boys. Because when I saw them carry my bags, I remembered myself. I was once like them, hungry, lost, carrying weight that was not mine to bear. Someone saved me then. Now it is my turn. The mother's breath caught. For years, she had buried the memory of a kind soldier who once protected her in another city long ago. She had never known his name. Could it have been him? Or was fate simply repeating its pattern? Suddenly a shout came from outside. The guards are retreating. The soldiers, realizing their control was slipping, began to withdraw. The captain cursed but followed, his threats echoing in the air. This is not over, Kale. The council will hunt you. Kale did not move until the last soldier disappeared down the street. Only then did he release a long, quiet breath. The neighborhood slowly filled with cautious joy. Families stepped forward to thank him. Children whispered his name. The boys looked at him with wide, shining eyes, but Anera did not move. She stood in the doorway, staring at him as if searching for something deeper than words. That night, when the crowd had faded and only the stars remained, Kale prepared to leave. You cannot stay here, Anera said firmly. If the council comes, they will burn everything. My children cannot carry that fire, Kyle nodded. I know, that is why I must keep moving. But remember, truth is like light. Once it shines, even the darkest places cannot hide. Rael stepped forward, his small hands clenched. Will we see you again? Kale crouched to meet the boy's eyes. Maybe not soon. But you don't need me. You already have courage inside you. Rael's chest swelled with pride, though his eyes stung with tears. When Kale finally turned to leave, Anera felt something strange in her chest. A sharp ache, not of fear, but of loss. For the first time in years, she had seen a human choose justice over cruelty. For the first time, her children had looked at a human with hope instead of fear. As his figure disappeared into the shadows, She whispered under her breath, almost to herself. I spent my life teaching them to fear humans, but tonight, you showed me something I never thought possible. Her voice broke and tears slid down her face. Humans, maybe they are not what we feared. The boys pressed close to her. Leto tugged at her sleeve, his voice soft but steady. Mama, maybe one day we can be like him. Anera looked at her youngest son, her tears falling faster now. She pulled all three into her arms, holding them tight against her heart. She did not know what tomorrow would bring. More soldiers, more raids, maybe even more pain. But she knew this, her children had seen something powerful, a different kind of human, a different kind of future, and that knowledge was stronger than fear.